Hello, beauties. Welcome back to Midlife by Human Design. Today's episode is inspired by Eclipse season because it is upon us. We are coming into the solar eclipse on Wednesday, and then a couple of weeks, we will have the lunar eclipse in Pisces. And the nodes just changed their axis. So we talked about this last week on the pod, and then we've got this eclipse this week. And it has me thinking about shadow work. And I don't know about you, but I had sort of a messy weekend with lots of uncomfortable conversations, unfortunately. And it had me reflecting on this idea of projections and shadow work. And so I wanted to talk about it. And maybe something I share with you today will be helpful for you, especially during this eclipse season, but really anytime that the shit is feeling stirred, you are feeling stirred, and or you are feeling like you are just living this life that no longer fits. So, the first thing I want to say is that I was thinking about how when I get into sticky conversations that I sometimes I have a hard time discerning what is being projected upon me and what I feel like is really mine. And I think about people. There are a lot of people that I don't really. God, what do I want to say here? There are definitely people, especially when it comes to politics, that annoy the shit out of me. And I would also say that I try really hard to have an open mind and to get along with just about anybody, to find like some common ground with somebody, especially if we're brought together in some way or I need to work with them or whatever. And I think that sometimes there are going to be people that just piss you off, no matter how kind you are as a human being or how accepting you are as a human being. And the fact is that sometimes people are just assholes. And that is a blanket statement. Obviously, I don't think anybody came out of the womb being an asshole. And I think that some people spend a lot more time there because they are miserable about their choices in life than necessary. But it doesn't mean that you have to be a victim to that. And so this is where we need to learn how to discern what is being projected on us and what those projections are actually speaking to within us. Like, what are they triggering for us? So projection by definition is, and this is not the whatever, Britannica, that's a Webster definition. But it's when somebody takes their own feelings, and especially feelings that may not even be conscious to them, or fears or shitty habits or whatever is kind of in their own shadow, and acts like it belongs to you. They are taking all of that stuff and kind of throwing it at you as if it's coming from you and giving you the blame for those things. So, for example, they tell a lie and then suddenly you're the one that can't be trusted in an argument. Or they get pissed that you made plans because they are feeling insecure and you're hitting this abandonment wound. And so if you find yourself in sticky arguments or sticky conversations, I want to encourage you to ask yourself a couple of things. First of all, always taking a breath in those moments is a good idea to center yourself and to let your emotions breathe through your emotions, let your body feel through the emotion that you're feeling, which may very well be anger, frustration. And ask yourself, what are you feeling? Pulling the feelings wheel to look at some of those words that will give you more specific names for the sensations that your body is communicating to you. And asking yourself, what are those feelings telling me? Like, well, Lori, I'm fucking pissed off in this moment. That's what they're telling me. Okay. Yes. And this is an and plus also kind of situation. What stories are those revealing? Like, you don't get angry just because, right? You don't get angry because the leaves are green on the trees. You don't get angry because, you're breathing air. There's a reason for you getting angry about whatever is coming up. So what is it triggering in you? What is the story beneath that trigger? And then this is where the projection piece comes in, is like, what does the person who is bringing these feelings up in you, what do they represent to you? So, for example, if you made plans and they are feeling insecure about it and they're pissed off that you have plans, what do they represent to you in that moment? Do they represent a barrier to your freedom, for example? And if you can understand that this barrier to your freedom reveals something about you, then that's where it can become useful in the conversation. Because, you want to dig into what is going on beneath the surface so that you can actually overcome these shadows. And this eclipse that's happening is a solar eclipse in Leo. And we know that Leo is all about main character energy. It's about shining bright. It's ruled by the sun. It's about just getting out there, being loud, being proud. And on the flip side, it can be this need for approval or recognition or wanting to be special and looking for external validation. It could also be suppressing that feeling of just like wanting to put yourself out there and resenting people who actually do that thing. And I think that understanding like where you may have some shadows popping up as they pertain to this Leo energy will be really helpful for you this week. Another thing that Leo focuses on is leadership, right? It's like the king of the zodiac, the lion, right? And it's that main character energy, as I was mentioning. And so how can you take leadership and ownership, accountability for what you're feeling through this eclipse season and understand the difference between projections and what's actually yours? So where can you have this conversation? Okay, I made plans. They got pissed. What is actually mine here to carry? Well, mine might be that I want freedom, that I need more freedom, that I feel I'm in the proverbial bird cage and I need to get out. I need to fly. And that may be yours. And maybe you're not being clear about that. Maybe you think you're being clear because you get pissed off when your partner, raises a stink about you making plans. Maybe that's your way of communicating it. But how can you do this better? How can you move into your own soul's growth on this journey? Because whoever is in your life is here for a reason. They're here on your soul path, on your soul journey with you for a reason. And some people are here for a season, right? They come in and out, and some people are here for longer. But we need to think about, like, okay, if this person who is projecting something onto me is here to teach me something, what could that be? And how can I use my strategy and authority from a human design perspective to help me discern what the message is here? What do I actually know from my core being? What do I know about my own values? What do I know that might be skewed about me because of the way I was brought up, or the environment I grew up in, or the relationships that I had earlier? Like, everything that anybody is ever saying to you, including yourself, the words that come from your mouth, they're all of those words are a product of everything that you've lived through up until that point. And so everything is always biased and skewed. And when you follow your authority, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be unicorns and rainbows. It means that it's going to help you align with your magnetic monopole, which is here to direct you on your soul's purpose. It's here to keep you like locked in to, what did I actually sign up for? What did I actually come here to learn? And if everything is always kosher in your life, then you're probably not growing, right? Like I used to tell my students, there has to be some kind of conflict in a story in order for there to be growth, in order for the character to change. So if you, in Leo season here, are the main character in your story, then what kind of conflicts are coming up for you, and how are they helping your soul to grow? And this goes especially for anything that is a pattern in your life. And I know so many of you listening have had or are in long-term relationships with partners for like decades. And, right around midlife tends to be when we really question that pretty heavily. Like, shit, do I still want this? Am I the same person who married my partner? Probably not. Is my partner still a person that this new version of me feels comfortable with, feels like we're still on the same page? We can still continue to change and grow together. Or has there been like a bit of a separation in your paths? And that's not to say that they couldn't come back together again, but it's definitely this time when a lot of us question, like, does it come back together? And if so, what does that look like? Because it can't be the same way it was when you were in your 20s. It can't look the same. It has to look different because you're in midlife now. And the questions that we need to ask ourselves in relation to our authority are like, what is right for me? What do I know so deeply? And using your authority to discern that. Now, if you have an emotional authority, for example, it can take years for you to sort it out. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to happen right away, that you're going to know the answer, like your spleen is going to, give you the answer in the moment, or your sacral is going to give you the answer when you ask it a yes or no question. So your authority is going to bring you back to what you know to be true for yourself. And in midlife, we know our hormones are raging, shit's going sideways, and plus also, it's helping to crack us open. It's giving us the opportunity to redefine who we are in the second half of life. And sometimes you need a neutral mirror to do this kind of work. Sometimes you need somebody who is going to look at your human design chart and say, hey, actually, have you thought about this? Or, I hear your gate 21 coming in there. Maybe the shadow side of control is hooking its claws into you, and how can you loosen those a little bit? What might be some experiments that we can try to help you feel still that sort of sense of control while also admitting that surrender is an important part of our soul's journey, just as an example. But some of the women that have worked with me have talked about how this kind of work has given them the exact support that they needed to get out of old habits and to redefine what's possible for themselves, because they've been in this like tiny little shoebox of expectations, just looking around at what exists, and they needed somebody to help them crack that open and help them see what else is possible. So if you are interested in doing this, I will leave a link in the show notes. Book a session with me and we can talk about how do you make this work for your specific situation. Where are things getting sticky in this midlife phase? Because our old identity is breaking away. We are becoming the wild woman, whether we like it or not. And she's going to say shit without a filter. She is going to take risks when we let her. She is going to shed old roles that she used to play because she was people-pleasing and clear shit off of her plate because she knows that her body needs rest. She knows that her body is literally going through a rebirth. So I invite you to use this period, this Leo solar eclipse period, especially during this week, to reflect on where do you have Leo in your chart. So if you look at your astrology chart, if you don't have it, go to my website, laurieleeside.com, go to get your chart, and make sure you toggle to the astrology chart and look at which house does Leo occupy? Which house is going to be kind of up in this beginnings and endings portal here? And I should mention that Jupiter is also in the mix here, so it's kind of making this energy expansive. It's even bigger than it would normally be. So where is that Leo energy in your chart? And also, do you have any of the Leo gates, which are 56, 31, 33, 7, 4, and 29? Do you have any of those gates in your chart? And do a little bit of homework on what is the low expression of the gate and what is the high expression? Because the low expression gives you the opportunity to look at, maybe this is how the shadow side shows up for me. And it also gives you the contrast. Okay, well, if I'm showing up in my shadow self in this particular instance, when I'm having this argument with my partner, for example, as we've been using, then how do I transmute that to the high expression? What does the high expression even look like? Because sometimes when you're so in it, you can forget those things, right? You can forget that the high expression is even possible because you're so furious in the moment. So I want to remind you that in midlife, as a gift, I think, we are just running out of the energy for bullshit. We're running out of the energy for keeping up with appearances, for pretending, for acting as if everything's okay when it's not, for accepting status quo when we want better, for accepting status quo when we want different. We're running out of the energy for it. It's unacceptable. And I want to give you permission for that. And I want to remind you that this week, especially Wednesday, is a great time to crack that open, to really invite in what you want to see. And I'm not talking about manifesting. I'm more talking about how do you transmute those shadows in order to let in the light. Because during an eclipse, we know like when it's a solar eclipse, the light is cut off for a bit, right? And depending on where you are in the world, you may be in, totality, or it may just be a partial eclipse, or you may miss it altogether, but it's still happening energetically. And so how can you use that energy that's in the ether to help fuel your soul's growth? And maybe that means that you are able to take those projections that are being put onto you in those conversations and transmute them into understanding, okay, I hear what you're saying. I do not identify with it. I do not accept it as it is being said. And this is what it's triggering in me. So I'm going to share that and see if we can find some common ground. All right, that is what I have for you today, lovelies. So as always, I am wishing you the strength to let go of what no longer serves you, joy to fill your days, and clarity to be who you came here to be. And if you are watching this on YouTube, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you are listening to this on Apple or on your favorite podcast player or Spotify or whatever, please make sure you're following the show. And if you know another midlife maven who could really use this episode, please share it with her and help us spread the Midlife by Human Design love. Thank you so much for listening.